Look, so right now we're dealing with high gas prices. Of course, everybody's telling me that right now. But if your vehicle's a flex fuel, best advice is this. Use it. It's cheaper. But at the same time, it's just a sort of race fuel in some instances. But basically, I just did this video just to say it's cheaper. And if you're on a budget, you can use it. But make sure your tank is empty before you put the other gas in there on top of it. It'll mix, it'll run fine, but to me it runs better when you run it on an empty tank. That way the computer can switch over and control everything that needs to go on with it without getting confused. So continue to like, subscribe, and share. So this is where I'm at. This is how much I got. So we're gonna let the experiment begin. See how it runs and how she drives. So we're getting 20 gallons. $8.02. So now, get back in here. So right now what should be happening is the computer should be registering it. So we didn't quite put it on full. But we have 389 miles of range. So the computer did register it versus the regular gas that I use. And what we're gonna do now is do a performance check on it and see what happens. So when I get to rolling a little bit, I'll cut you guys back on and let you see what's going on. Okay, so now since I've been driving, we've gone over, I want to say roughly 10 miles. There it is. So it's dropped, but the performance has gotten better. Temp is pretty much standard. Everything else is normal. So what I'm gonna do, drive a little bit more and see if I notice anything else that changes. But right now the computer recognizes that it's a different fuel in here other than regular unleaded. So now we're at the point to where it knows that it has the E85 in the system. So like I said, we're just gonna drive a little bit and see what happens and see if the mileage increases or decreases. And I would love to sit here and leave this on like this while I'm driving, but I'm not going to, for reasons that are unsafe. And plus I don't have my camera staying with me, so for whatever reason, it's going the wrong way. So I'm gonna drive at least 20 more miles and see what we come up with, and see how drastic it drops or if anything else changes. But right now, the horsepower does feel different, meaning that it has a little bit more power than it normally does with regular gas. So the budget race fuel is actually something worthwhile to an extent. Also too, from my understanding with E85, you can't use this in every type vehicle simply because of the alcohol content. It would eat through rubber, seals, and stuff of that matter. So if your car isn't equipped to run on the E85, i.e. the injectors, the fuel lines, and things of that nature at the fuel pump, don't put it in there unless you've upgraded everything in your system to run on it. I'm just making this video as an alternative to people who can use E85 and are skeptical about it. And there are good sites that has information on people who want to convert their cars to run on E85, because a lot of racers do it. So what I would say to those people, go ahead and go to those different websites and see if there's something doable for you, because you know some of the stuff is a little expensive. Some it's a little bit more than you're willing to pay. I don't know what your budget is. But it's up to you to say, well, right now fuel is kind of high. I think I want to try an alternative. And right now, this is a cheaper alternative by far, because you've seen the fuel price differences at most of the gas stations. But also keep this in mind: E85 gas stations are not that abundant depending on where you live. Midwest, they're pretty much everywhere. Out west, they're still scarce, but they're there. On the south end of the country, going to the northeast, there are a few. Like I said, they're just scattered. You just have to do your research and find out if it's a viable source for you. Meaning, okay, if you have your vehicle converted to E85, will it pay for itself after a certain amount of time? I can't answer that for you, because each person has different driving capabilities, or you have a commute job where you want to just drive a car that runs on the E85 because it's cheaper. So when you get that cheaper fuel or cheaper price, that might be viable for you. I can't say that it works for everybody, but it does. And right now I'm rambling on, so I'm gonna catch you back on in a little bit and let you know what I come up with or what I see as far as different. So I'll put you back on in a second. So after a little while of driving, there has been noticeable changes in power levels. So in that aspect, yes, you do gain a little bit more power, but you do lose a lot of mileage. And I was going to do this test a little bit longer. It's been like about 45 minutes to an hour, almost 80, not even that much, about 65, 70 miles, I want to say, roughly. But yeah, it does work, and depending on how you drive, it might be beneficial for you. But for me, this is a work truck, kind of, sort of, so it's actually pretty good. And for it to be the type of fuel it is very responsive. And it's race fuel on a budget, so to speak. So it just depends on how far in depth you want to go with it, and just take it as far as you want to. For me, it works simply because it's cheaper and it's not breaking the bank, so to speak. But you make your own decision from that. But I just made mine. So whichever's more, whatever beneficial to you, use it. But from what I've seen, it's pretty decent. But it's not going to replace the other fuel. But in a pinch, this will work. Make sure you subscribe. Tell your friends about it. Pass it along. Do everything. Help me get my views up. Well, not necessarily help me get my views up, but just spread the knowledge, if nothing else. And as always, like I said, please do what you will with the video. It's not something to say this is in stone, this is what it does. But it's just something to get you into the game of knowing a little something. And I've only used half of that, quarter of a tank. So just hit me back with any questions. Like, share, subscribe. Thanks.